Good afternoon, everybody. It is 12:59, almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh my gosh, I can hear myself. Put that on mute. All right, welcome back to Decrypt Markets. Why don't we go ahead and go over what we have going on. We had a few trades yesterday. We were looking at XLM, PPT, BTC, no, LTC. What was that one? And then last night, or rather in the afternoon, I put in there a Bloody Monday sale. Went long in Ethereum at 194, and then long at Cardano at 63 cents, 63.5 cents. Okay, one chart I want to take a look at right here before we get going is this one right meow. This is the short chart, short interest from Bitfinex's data. And a couple things to look at and notice. So there is a triple top, but it's the descending triple top. That's usually generally pretty bearish. But I mean, we could consider it possibly a bull flag of sorts, but it's faced resistance up against this middle 4/8 harmonic. It's an inner harmonic value. It's a pretty resistive area. We've seen it stopped there 1, 2, 3, 4 times now. Also, the arc here itself is acting as a source of resistance, and so we are pressing down. The major harmonic right below us at 36,693 and 63 cents. That should be a area that we see maybe a little bit of relief, or where the shorts may find a little bit of relief, but that is more than likely not a thing that will happen. We're coming up against this pivot in time, and again, red vertical lines on my charts indicate a pivot in time. So it acts as a pivot in time. A resistance in time to the trend in force. So what is the trend as we're approaching this? Very clearly to the upside. And I like the daily here because we've got a nice engulfing candlestick. We're still at the lows of the day, regardless of how this closes. I mean, unless we close, somehow retrace all this and trade higher. This is a double top. This is a tweezer top. I would consider it a tweezer top on the daily. So pretty negative looking setup here. And what this means, for bulls is that this chart means that shorts are covering their positions. They're turning into buyers. So the lower this moves, we should see an acceleration and a urge to get out of short positions and see a short covering rally. We're really not seeing any signs of relief. So the shorts should continue to turn into buyers. So this is kind of like an inverse chart of Bitcoin in a way. You could think of it like that. All right, let's look at Bitcoin. So I drew this little ship here, the rocket. Now, notice that where we found support is around this inner harmonic of 6,300. We traded up against the arc. This arc obviously has acted as a source of constant and consistent resistance. Price got up to here before it fell over, faced resistance against here again, actually traded beyond it, traded back down. The thing that we should notice, though, is that the arcs are kind of like they're like an angle in that they get weaker over time, but they don't get weaker just because they're tested. It's not like a dynamic support or resistance level in price where it gets stronger the more it's tested. So we found some support right here. Very nice volume kind of poured in over in the morning. And if we do get beyond this arc, we should expect it to move out of here pretty fast. Looking at Ethereum, similar situation. We are up against this arc. We found pressure. Same arc that we found resistance at prior to the deep fall. Kind of a shared relationship. Both of the arcs are getting hit by Bitcoin and Ethereum. So If we hold out here, if we form like a consolidative price pattern or just kind of a little dip, we may form a cup and handle. But really, to trade higher, we're going to need to breach this arc, and that's above the $230 value area. So what is the cause of the drive up today? That's could be a lot of things. I bank it on technicals. Actually, I'll tell you what I bank it on. Where are we at? Shoot, I took it off. Remember the planetary angles we were talking about, and I was reading Larry Pesavento's book on or going over the notes that I took from his book, and there was only one planet that he suggested we look at, and that was, I have a question about the law of vibration of the Gann chart. For Bitcoin, does the 192-day cycle start after the day? Yes. Yep. It starts after the day. Yep. So if you're actually in really any of Gann's work, well, no, that's not true. In the law of vibration, you start the day after. Yep. So the first day is the day after the all-time high or the all-time low that you're building it off of. And in fact, you should, some markets, like for instance, I just used, so this is law of vibration chart. Here's I built just yesterday. I built this, and what I did, this is the Bitcoin short chart, and just to show that it works on any chart, the law of vibration is very effective. I initially started this on the all-time high, so I started it over here, and then I built it out. But I've learned to do it on both, so I've found the extreme high or extreme low, and I've tried building them off both. And whatever seems to be more sensitive or responsive is the one that you want to use. And ultimately, I should have kept those other lines on here so you could see it, but ultimately, starting from the low has made more sense. There's more correlative price action near these zones, and the market geometry seems to respond better. So yeah, then the law of vibration, the 192-day cycle, you start that after the first day after the high or the low. Okay. Now, okay, where did I go? Oh yeah, right here. The reason that I'm excited about today is, and I got excited about the close yesterday, was because of that Venus of 36 degrees. 36 degrees of Venus. It's like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Not really. Lines. Repeat. Okay, again, so here are this is Venus, and this is every 36 degrees. Crazy stuff. I know. It's weird. I don't know if any of you have seen this before or not seen this before, but it's absolutely wild. It is the most ridiculous correlative financial astrology thing that I've seen, where it happens this frequently at this frequency. It's pretty nuts. So Venus at every 36 degrees is pretty damn it's wild. I don't know how else to describe it. So really what we're saying is that if we're near this low, because it shows up frequently right at within a couple days of a swing high or swing low, and we're definitely near a swing low here. So this makes total sense, because we're on the 18th, tomorrow's the 19th. This is the end of day data, because Optimus still needs to get their damn work together and do the silly live data. But that's definitely one of the reasons that we should be seeing a nice rise. And I'll tell you what, the last time we saw the 216 degree level here is all the way back to 2010, which also had the Venus retrograde cycle. All right. There's the 216 degree Venus levels are here, here, and here. There's 3 of them. The market rose 776%. this kind of stuff does repeat in markets frequently. So the fact that these are showing up like near the exact same dates as 8 years ago, and that we have the retrograde cycle showing up at around the same time, it is a very, very neat kind of cycle. Hang on, I was just checking this out. Okay, I was trying to figure out something. Okay. So, all right, we got that. Now, in addition, we went over all that other stuff yesterday too, so I want to look at the other majors and see what's going on here. Is this dropping even farther? Oh, no, it's got a little bit of a bull there. Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum's catching a bid here at the bottom of the hour. We'll see if it breaches through here. We could have just experienced a pullback over the last 4 hours to see the next rise. The volumes in here is pretty insane. I want to look at Ripple. Ripple just shot up like crazy, and they're actually, I hate Ripple. I'm still very bearish on the fundamentals of it, but you can't deny that the price action is doing what it's doing, and it's seriously got some power behind it. So the news reason, I guess, if you want to call it that, is related to the X Rapid system. It's going to, I mean, if you're unfamiliar with Ripple and really what it is, it deals with settlements of international transactions. So, converting, if you're paying for services in dollars to Mexican pesos, there's a process and it can take a few days. Or even if you're just, sending remittances from the U.S. to Mexico, it takes a few days, or vice versa. It's usually one way or the other. And you have this time period and this cost involved. And what a lot of businesses are finding out, not just banks, but a lot of businesses are that they can settle. They've knocked out 40 to 70% of the cost of that transaction that traditionally is done through banks. And what usually takes 3 to 5 days happens in 2 minutes. So is there a use case? Absolutely. But Ripple also has kind of over its head the unregistered securities thing going on. Plus, it can very easily be diluted. I don't know, the word sounds funny. Having one of those moments where the word, or when you write a word and it looks funny. So that's the deal with Ripple there. And it has had a pretty nice drive up, and that has kind of been seen with a whole lot of other altcoins. In fact, look at Cardano has gone up quite a bit. We were up around 10%. Here's this natural 7,000. The 7-cent zone seems to be an area of resistance. We've got a double bottom that's pretty bullish. Nano, of course, struggling to maintain those gains, but it's on the 1 hour. We've got this bull flag going on here. The fact that we stopped right about there, we could see a pretty nice drive up and beyond. We could see a breakout happening in a lot of these pairs. Even while we're talking, we could see it in the next hour. XLM, this is another payment settlement coin, very similar to Ripple in as far as what its kind of target market is. But they have they're working with IBM. So, well, not really with, but whatever. They're using the technology. So XLM doing pretty good. I mean, from a total hold and wait for it to get more expensive, XLM is one that I'm really stupidly excited about. I've actually been increasing my positions. I've been reducing my OMG and my Bitcoin Gold, and I've actually started to convert that into XLM, move this percentage of my holding portfolio a little higher, because there's just a lot of positive fundamental news coming out with this, and it has a use case, and it's partnered with a pretty huge company, IBM, and we're entering in that bull phase of crypto. So yes, this is one that I'm looking forward to. So, I mean, we really, let's flip over to the altcoin market here. Can just hit the percentage gain on here. Just a slew of green on the screen. And not a lot of red. I mean, the things that are in the red are, excuse me, Dogecoin's in the red. Imagine that. Dogecoin. Oh my gosh. I really don't guppy. These crap coins on Bittrex. Just it's really crappy coins on Bittrex. And it's got crap volume. But I think Bittrex will still be one of the most important exchanges coming up because it's accepting fiat trading. It's getting that bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, so yeah, a lot of the alt market is doing very well. In fact, I think we may be over 200 million market cap. Just a little bit below 198 billion. Did I say million? 200 billion market cap. So that is good to see. Want to take a look at our Ichimoku system. So looking at the Ichimoku on the daily, where did we get halted? We got halted right on the conversion line. Now the conversion line is turning up. We have the baseline sitting flat up ahead. It's not surprising that we found a little bit of a hit here right on the conversion line on the daily. That's pretty normal, pretty common, and actually it's pretty healthy. Even if we close like this today, that would be a nice, pretty bullish close. We've got a tweezer bottom formed. Really would like to see it have a little bit higher of a body, but, you know, we'll take what is there for a bullish trade. Looking over at the 4 hour, we see the resistance is pretty evident. Very hard area for I mean, this is a huge zone of crap. So there's lagging span facing pressure up against the baseline, conversion line, and the bottom of this cloud. Price itself facing congestion up against the same places, the baseline, conversion line, and the baseline, or the bottom of the cloud. So lots of pressure here and a lot of difficulty to move above it just looking at the Ichimoku system. And then looking at the hourly for Bitcoin down below here, the center, this is looking actually a little bit better. You know, we had this hourly fallout yesterday, and what it didn't turn into was a creation of lower lows. The fact that the hourly just really stopped at a dynamic support zone is a pretty bullish sign. We could just be experiencing a bull flag here, just a slight pullback, and you see we bounced right off of the conversion line. So these are early signs that the trend may turn bullish here on the hourly. We need confirmation, of course, by seeing price and the lag. Well, we need confirmation by seeing the lagging span trade above the cloud, but for right now we're getting early indications that the trend may be moving higher. And I think that's going to be very easy to do as if we see that the shorts are continuing to face pressure. Now this will be a pretty huge deal, because on the dailies, you know, when you get across on the dailies, I know Nicole Elliott and David Linton and forgot his first name for now, Patel. These are Ichimoku gurus. They've never really suggested or written about taking a trade based off of a price cross of the conversion line or the Tenkan-sen. So, you know, this cross of this conversion line, I'm comfortable taking, or I mean, if I was shorting the short chart, which means you're going long on Bitcoin, this is a correlative chart to Bitcoin. We could just say that it's not correlative, it's complementary. So we have a nice set up here where we could be trading below the conversion line. And really, when those things happen, when we see those crosses on a daily chart, when they're to the inverse direction of where we're at in the cloud, they usually stay like that. It's usually the sign of a trend change. I mean, we are very extended from the baseline here, that there's a pullback warranted anyways, and we could see it have a pretty large flush. There's a lot of shorts involved here, and the more that Bitcoin goes up, the more stops are hit, the more uncomfortable people get, and the more amateur short traders keep moving their stop in hoping that that Bitcoin's going to fall, and eventually, the market always moves in the direction that's going to hurt the most amount of people. So the most amount of people that are going to be hurt right now are short traders, and those with active short positions. We've got a little bit of a trend line here on the 4 hour that we can see that's coinciding with a pretty weak cloud right here. This cross here, this cloud is a sign of weakness. Even though we have this bullish cross, we see that the baseline is flattening, the span B is flattening, span A is pointing down. We've crossed below the conversion line and the baseline, so we're entering into some bearish territory on the 4 hour. And then the 1 hour, of course, is showing a pretty strong move in that direction as well. I mean, we have thin clouds here. They're not very strong. They're pretty thin. And so there's not a lot of distance for the short charts, for shorts to cover before it's like a full out trend change on the hourly chart. It's not a very far distance at all. Check out Ethereum. Ethereum on the daily, looking pretty healthy here. In fact, we closed pretty much even with the conversion line, and now we found support on it and we're trading above it. Nice daily double bottom here. That's a pretty bullish sign. This is a tweezer bottom on the daily. On the 4 hour, this is pretty nice as well. We see that price has found support at the bottom of the cloud after getting into it. Now we've actually peaked above the cloud, and the baseline and the conversion line and price are all sitting in one spot. So the move out of here is going to really needs to be pretty powerful in one direction. And from this point, it looks a little difficult for price to want to trade below when it's in fact moved above the cloud here. Yeah, that's kind of confirmed by looking at the day or the hourly down here. The hourly cloud, very weak cloud up here. So this isn't a lot of resistance at all. It should be very easy for price to trade up. We see the price is crossed above both lines. There's a TK cross here, conversion over the base. The span B is flat. Span A is slightly pointing up, but the lagging span is back here. So the breakout on Ethereum is at 2020. That's the breakout price level at this current area. In fact, that's not a bad trade idea. That's on the 1 hour Ichimoku. So that 2020 zone here on the hourly, that would be the good. That's the long entry zone. Ultimately, if we trade sideways for a number of hours, it gets easier for the lagging span to trade above. But right now, the lagging span up above it is the conversion, the base, the bottom of the cloud, and the top of the cloud. But these are thinly traded historical areas, so there's not a lot of resistance right above it on the hourly. And on the daily, yeah, we're still, still looking at that. Litecoin, let's take a peek at Litecoin. Litecoin's had a pretty nice move here on the hourly, although everything's like facing some type of resistance against the bottom of the cloud. Litecoin, pretty similar chart to Ethereum's there. The daily, we're above the conversion. That's okay. I don't really like it there. Cardano. Could not stay above the, could not stay above the conversion. Struggling to hold 6.7 cents. Got into the, well, this is actually pretty supportive. We haven't seen a huge rejection or a sell-off from the bottom of the cloud. So, I mean, there's clear signs that this downtrend is weakening on the 4-hour. I mean, the cloud's tightening up. I mean, that's pretty apparent by the price action. In fact, when the lagging span starts to trade sideways into price action, that's a sign of consolidation. So, you know, the breakout zone here is pretty easy to spot, even on the 4-hour, and on the 1-hour we get a clear view of it. It's above 7 cents. That's the ultimate, you know, breakout zone. This is one of the easiest spots to look for a breakout that you'll ever see. Nice double bottom formed, and there's a lot of volume participation in those zones. Let's see. Actually, we'll look at the Bitcoin pair to get those values. Actually, it looks like it already had its breakout, but we'll say above this. Right here would probably be okay. 1091. There's that. Pretty good moves there on Cardano. Basic attention token. Certainly out of the Coinbase 5, this one's turned into quite a laggard. Again, Coinbase 5. The Coinbase 5 are the 5 coins that Coinbase announced a few months ago that they would be considering adding to their platform, and that was Basic Attention Token, Cardano, Stellar, OX, Zcash, and Cardano, right? Cardano, Basic Attention Token, XLM, Zcash, and OX. Yep. So I have a lot of holdings in those 5 because they're, well, not a lot in OX, just because I don't get that one. And I've actually reduced some of my Zcash and picked up Monero. Monero seems to pique my interest a little bit more, not for any great reason, but Basic Attention Token is certainly lagging its peers. The daily doesn't look as favorable as the others. You know, the 4-hour actually looks a little bit better than its peers, and then the 1-hour, kind of same thing going on here. Walton Chain, remember Walton Chain actually caught a big pump. Walton Chain's a really nice project. It's actually got utility, use, and function. It serves a purpose. Oh yeah, I'll take a look at EOS, certainly. Walton Chain, I mean, looking at the 1-hour, clear consolidation, 4-hour clear consolidation, but we have all of the signs of a trend change coming, and in fact that's mirrored on the daily here as well, so be aware of that. Nano likes to catch a pump and get a ride. Still trading along this downtrend line here. We're getting into conditions where we could see it catch a nice pump. On the 1-hour, the breakout zone is a pretty clear area. That is the 39.57. Excuse me. And yeah, let's take a peek at EOS. In fact, I think I have EOS. Thought I had a don't. Well, EOS, look at that. Well, I mean, this looks just like this looks just like Bitcoin's chart, in that there's that head and shoulders pattern on the daily, but clearly there's no follow through on the sell there. Yeah, it even dipped below and has had a pretty strong bounce off of it. I mean, just doing simple triangles here, which are surprisingly effective in cryptos. So when you're trading triangles, any type of triangle, that you know, it's not just the, I mean, it's pretty subjective what's considered a rising or a falling or symmetrical, and symmetrical triangles being the most subjective of all the triangle patterns. But really what's most important is you got to think of it like split up into thirds. The breakout zone that you want to see it happen is in the middle. So and near the end of it, near the middle 2/3. So before it gets to the apex over here, we want to see it break out higher from that area. And then also, I mean, this is not reflected in the volume, but as prices tighten up in a triangle pattern, there should be a volume drop off. The volume drop off is actually the primary signal for identifying when the breakout is going to happen, especially if you're in that final 2/3 of the triangle. So it's interesting that this has decided to trade the way it has, but clearly, I mean, the breakout zone is pretty close. If we sell off below this, it's a deep drop. There's not a lot below it, and I swear to God, I thought I had some type of structure built there, but I didn't. Oh well. I mean, let's see here. There's quite a bit of. I don't see anything really horrible with it right now. Just, I mean, there's not a lot of risk right here on EOS. I mean, the risk is really below this low, and the reward is significant. And we're just sitting in value. I mean, I'm comfortable with that one. 80.39. That would be a break up the triangle on a 4-hour chart. Monero, let's see how Monero is doing. Monero's been a pretty good trader. Very similar head and shoulders pattern on the long-term time frame. We see that arcing up quite a bit. I mean, this is the pattern that we take a peek at the daily. This is the, you know, looks like a bear flag on the 4-hour and 1-hour charts, but there's, you know, there was an ample opportunity yesterday to see a follow through for this head and shoulder pattern that is in pretty much every single crypto chart. And we could see it travel there. I mean, Monero's probably not the best judge of that. We'd probably want to look at Ethereum or Bitcoin. Oops. Let's take the more dangerous of the shoulders there. Well, however you want to do it. I mean, there's clear opportunity yesterday to try and pull this down lower, but it did not pan out. Really want to see what we do here everywhere, especially with Bitcoin, because that's really going to kind of set the motion for our direction moving forward. I mean, if we break this arc, that's what I'm looking for, is a break of this arc. If this is just a pullback in a 1, 2, 3 drive lower, then this is a pretty tight consolidative area in a already tight consolidation zone that's been going on for months. There's a lot of financial astro stuff that's hitting here, a lot of time cycles. There's really, and the seasonality, there's just a whole lot of stuff that doesn't really trigger and signal out to me that we have another move down. I mean, in some harmonic patterns there is, and in an extended Elliott wave pattern, like we could still see a C drive down lower to like between the 2 and 4,000s. That is a possibility, but that has not really manifested itself yet. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. But if we're experiencing, an actual run up from here, these 3 hours of drive followed by some profit taking, and if this holds as a support zone and we trade up from here, that should be a pretty nice a move to trade higher. There's been quite a bit of volume participation here so far, and I see Ethereum wants to try and get back to that 110 zone, but again, this arc is acting pretty hard area to crack, and the oscillators are oscillators. We'll see if this... Oh, one cool thing about oscillators. So oscillators pretty much suck in a trend. So if you're in a trending market, long term or short term, if you're in a trending market, oscillators are kind of pointless. Just because something gets into the overbought area doesn't mean it's going to sell off, and vice versa, because things obviously can stay in those areas forever and a day. But Constance Brown actually, she did something that might help use them in in a trending market, and that's where you adjust your oversold and overbought levels. So for the and the mids. So for the RSI, the overbought level, the overbought level gets moved from 70 to 90. 90 is the overbought level, and then the mid gets moved up to 60, and then on the oversold levels, the mid is pushed down to 40, and the oversold level is 10. And so if you're in a trending market and you're trying to use oscillators, that is... Do you think we can... That is something to keep in mind, too, if you try to draw those out if you want to. That's unbounded oscillators, though. So unbounded oscillators like the composite index, that doesn't really work on. A bounded oscillator is basically where it only oscillates between levels of 0 and 100. Unbounded can move into the positive and the negatives. Do you think we can see a drop of the head and shoulders and a sharp capitulation followed by an increase in volume? I think so, but the problem is that the head and shoulders pattern in Bitcoin, let me find a... get rid of all that. Here's the issue, is that this sticks out like a sore thumb. It's very, very evident that we've got this head and shoulder pattern going on here. And the thing is if it's very obvious and everybody tries to trade it, you often see the opposite happening. I mean, I would actually personally love to see it fall to test the neckline and maybe even dip below it and then come up to retest, but then the retest fails lower, and actually that would provide a really great move higher. But it doesn't have to. I mean, the head and shoulders pattern like this that forms at the bottom of a move, they often do not pan out. Okay, if the structure is formed, like this at a bottom, you don't often see it continue to go to the downside. A regular head and shoulders is much. I mean, it's a top. It's a reversal pattern for a market top. It's not a reversal pattern. It's not a continuation pattern at a market bottom. These have a high probability of getting rejected. In fact, I mean, head and shoulders in general have a high probability of getting rejected, but once the neckline is broken, they are like they're the most profitable pattern. I think Bulkowski rated it as a 1 out of 10. No, that wasn't Bulkowski. He did. Oh yeah, he did. Never mind. Here, yeah, I mean the 6,000 isn't very far below. This is a area that we could test. But I mean, we have a pretty steep angle here. So it's interesting to see if we can trade higher and breach the high of the Monday candlestick, which was a big drop. So yeah, any real drop below this would be a pretty I mean, capitulation's probably the word for it. Definitely, because we'd be eliminating we'd be eliminating a calendar year support zone. To break this neckline, it would be a waterfall event. But that is, I mean, you would probably see a candlestick like we saw back here in January, or rather December 22nd, where you see this drop from, okay, this is, I mean, hard to believe that this is something that happened, but because we're so used to what we've had going on now for a few months. But we went from the open at 15,184 and dropped all the way down to 11,205. There was a $3,000 drop and then it got bought back up to close at 13,874. So I mean, it recovered $2,000. So if we did see a move like that below that head and shoulders, that would be, I would expect it to show some kind of candlestick like this or like this. I mean, that would be a strong, or even back here, like we saw back here, traded, opened at 76.77, drove down to 58.50. That was a pretty ugly. That was the yearly low, wasn't it? Or we formed a new low over here. Something to keep an eye on. Yeah, so we had, I mean, really, in the morning trade, we saw a lot of things get a lot of volume and pump up. Now we just see it kind of fading off. Very, very typical in this market. Very, very typical to see to see profit taking happen. That's not I think you should be doing that. Definitely. If you catch something that's gone up 4 or 5% in the bear market, I don't know why you wouldn't take profit and then see if there's another re-entry on some type of bull move. So, like Ethereum, there's clear angle breaks, very simple, technical analysis 101 trend line breaks are what we're looking at. We need to trade higher there. This could be a head and shoulders pattern. It could be a developing head and shoulder. That could very well be a pattern that we get. Yeah, there's a chasing head and shoulders patterns is like chasing straights in poker. That's what I always say. Looking at the short interest here. So, I mean, we're looking at we bottomed out on the composite index and the stochastic RSI. Makes sense to see a little bit of relief there on the hourly. 4 hours probably down quite a bit too. Yes, it is. But on the daily, that is messed up. You don't often see this. You don't often see a divergence between the slow and the fast oscillator here. That doesn't happen often. That's wonky. That usually means something's about to drop. Interesting. Let's screenshot that actually. Add it to my others. The daily here looks pretty ugly. Continues to. Don't see a lot of relief coming in here. Again, we're past the lunch hour in the US lunch hour. It is totally normal to see things fade until the London Open or the Tokyo Open. It's totally normal to see things just retrace the entire move they made this morning and moving forward. It's very, very normal to see low volume push things down again. That is the name of this market. It's very easy to move this market or manipulate it, whatever you want to call it. I mean, manipulation's in every market. You can't avoid it, but where the fewer participants there are, the easier it is to move it. And when everybody's done trading for the day, or they're just, I don't know, it's just you go eat, go to sleep, go to lunch. It's easier to move the market in the direction that you want. So, but again, really, doing a lot of this on your own is going to be pretty simple, because a lot of these breaks we're looking for are just on a downwards trend line, an immediate downwards trend line. I mean, there's just a ton of them that we're looking at for a breakout zone, and if they can bust above it, that's awesome. Some of them are pretty steep, like Walton Chain, or Nano's got a couple of them that need to break. Actually, it's kind of nice to see this. When you start to see the slope moving down like this, the down move increases. Turns into parabolic moves. So we'll see if Nano can bust up above here or not. XLM, oh, that's gold. Stuck against this. You can just see the resistance area right here. I mean, it's just there. Same with Cardano. That resistance is just hanging out up there. I'm going to put the volume profile on here, see what that looks like. Oh, yeah. Volume point of control is sitting right there at 69.81. So right at 7,000, that's where the volume point of control is. That's the nut to crack. If we scroll up, though, let's go to 4 hour. From that swing to where we're at now. Clearly, the 7,000 value area from the most recent swing high to our swing low over here. This is the value area. That is a shite ton of volume. Holy cow. Wow. Look at and there's a ton of support down here. This is the 10 and a half cents, and then we're at the 7 cents. But look at this over here. There's a whole volume trough. There's a high volume node right where we're sitting, and then there's a high volume node right up here. This is actually the volume point of control for these swings all the way from what is that? July 18th, 19th rather. And then we see right here. I mean, this is volume profile. What that means is that you trade it is that when you identify a high volume node, and you see these low volume nodes, prices get sucked up into these zones very easily. So areas that have not had a lot of historical volume traded, that means that it acts like a vacuum. Prices can move very, very easily into these zones. So from this node to this node, price should have a very easy move going forward. And then similarly over here, well, actually, we probably don't want to use that. We'd have to move back farther. But in the current price action, very easy for price to move above, once it gets above here, to move higher. Okay? Any questions? Anything you want me to take a look at? I like this hourly so far. We'll see what happens here at the, watch what happens in the last 10 minutes. Because this might be a pretty nice indication of what's going to happen. The volume is coming in. Oh, that was a little bit of a drop there. There's that old saying that amateurs trade the open, experts trade the close. That's really relevant in futures markets. XRP, let's take a look at XRP. In fact, you know what? Because XRP might be a good trader here, I think this is a nice setup on the hourly. Volume's not nice, but this is a nice bullish pivot candlestick setup. Let's go ahead and square this bad boy out. I'm going to go from the all-time high. There we go. $192 days. And then I only need 96. How long have I been trading? I've been trading on my own and independently for 8 years. I was unprofitable for a long time before that. I struggled, man. I struggled. And I tell you, not until I went to therapy. Actually, I met my wife. She's a psychologist. She's a PsyD, so she's like a doctor of psychology, not like a PhD. Nothing wrong with PhDs, but just like she's actually Yoda. So, like she wanted me to go to therapy before we got married because I scoffed at it, and she said, no, you really need to like understand your insecurities and learn more about yourself. And actually, I think therapy, probably more than anything, was the most beneficial thing that ever got me to be good at trading, because trading is all up here and in here. You can, I have this sitting out every morning. I read this. This is from W.D. Gann. He said, I can give you the best rules in the world and the best methods for determining the position of a commodity, and then you can lose money on account of the human element, which is your greatest weakness. That's very true. And he wrote this in the 30s. You will fail to follow rules. You will act on hope or fear instead of facts. You will delay. You'll become impatient. You will act too quickly, or you will delay too long acting, thus beating yourself on account of your human weakness, then blaming it on the market. Anybody else done that? Remember, that is your mistake that causes losses and not the action of the market or the manipulators. Therefore, strive to follow rules or keep out of speculation, for you are doomed to failure. If you will only study the weakness of human nature and see what fools these mortals be, you will find it easy to make profits by understanding the weakness of human nature and going against the public and doing the opposite of what other people do. In other words, you buy near the bottom on the knowledge or sell near the top on the knowledge, while other people will guess just the opposite. Time spent in the study of price, time, and past market movements will give you a rich reward. And that was from William W. Gannon, How to Make Profits in Commodities. What is my... final opinion on most probabilistic outcome based on the technicals and the astrology. Higher, much higher. I'm going with that. The seasonal and everything else is pointing towards a bullish continuation, a breakout of this consolidation, and then the time and price Elliott target in the 34 to 37,000 value area is still in the cards for 2018. But I want to finish squaring this bad boy out. Let me get my handy dandy. So I'm going to build out this square of Ripple, and you folks can. It's just probably going to take me past. It definitely take me longer than 5 minutes. So you folks are free to hang out if you want or go, but you can watch this recording as well. So what I do now is for the law of vibration cycle, it's 192 days. I look for the high, which is 3521. I'll only take those 4 digits. So 3521. I need to find a natural square above that 3521. So 3600. And then below the low, natural square below the low, is 231. Wait a minute. This is going to be a little different. Oh, shit. Well, you know what? Actually, we could just do it the traditional way. All right. Square this bad boy up. That works. Do it backwards. And let's see, let's get the Gann score fixed on the all-time high. Oops, that's not it. Okay, now I just need to get the box. Follow the 45 all the way down to where we get to that intersects the low, which is right here. Why is that not lined up? Oh my God. Why is it doing that? That's messed up. Shit, did I fuck up my square? God damn it. Well, I know that one's not gonna change. Awesome, man. Yep. Yeah, the wow, what in the frack is up with this damn chart? Like it doesn't want to drag. It's dragging the whole damn thing. Okay. There you are. Oh, that's aggravating. I've never had this issue with TradingView before. Why is it dragging the whole thing when I'm clicking on the point? A little touchy. Okay, there we go. Oh, man, that was aggravating. Now I can auto fit and close out that square. There we go. I don't think that this is as accurate as it should be, but it's not. I don't like it. It doesn't look right. It probably isn't right. Okay, bear with me. We could just do the squares of those ranges there. That works. So our all-time low is at 002318. That's ways down there. Is that 2318? You know, that value is kind of pointless. Anything for trading above $1, nothing matters past the cent. And then our high is 3542. All right, now I've got some values to work with. So 3.54. Whoops. I always like to color code because, well, it's easier to tell which line is which. Oops. And these remain constants. I'm actually going to have to redo this later, but for right now, I believe we'll get some okay readings. Oh, it's 2.66. And where you at? Blue. Sorry, I'm almost done with this part. And then I was going to skip them, but I'll put the last two in there. That is 1.33. Mid from the bottom and then mid from the top is all right. I don't know what that's doing there. Don't need that. Okay, so those major harmonic values are in there. This is where we're currently trading. Means we don't have much more left. Let's plot out 24 days. So in the law of vibration, you plot out every 24 days. And the most important swing time zones, time cycles, are going to be the red and the blue. So 2, 4, and 8. The second line, the second vertical, the fourth vertical, and the sixth vertical. And then let's get some of the market geometry in here. That actually almost fits in there perfect. It doesn't always happen. Well, wait a minute. That might be too constricted. We could go smaller. Fractals are fractals are fractals. So we're at, what is this value? This pivot is 0.89. Then we're at 1. And one more. And after this, we can look at it and see what we got. All right. Drop it down to a 4-hour. See if we've got a okay. All right. It's a pretty accurate square. When you start to see wicks responding to arcs more than 3 times, yeah, then we've got a pretty good square set up here. There's an obvious top here that was met against time that traded off lower. And as we started to arc up, yeah, so the trend is obviously working to go higher. Broke this 1 by 2. Yep, this is a pretty good square so far. We could compare it to past price action too, just to see what we've got. And do the exact same thing and see if we get similar moves. But I'm just going to put in 48 days. That looks like spot on for the pivot. Yep. All right, now let's yeah, it does. Yep. Yeah, James Franklin, that is exactly what it's pointing at. Especially because there was such a strong break of that angle. And the arc was acting as kind of a support zone. It's the momentum of the arc is pointing up there. Yeah, it's very much indicating a higher move. And I want to do one more on the side here. And the point of actually constructing out these squares to go as far back as, really I'd go back about 3 cycles if there's enough data. The reason for it is because you want to look at, so particular arcs and particular angles are going to be kind of inherently sensitive to a chart, depending on the instrument. I mean, they're going to be different arcs and different angles. But let's say, okay, so twice now, just looking at this on this red vertical line here, there have been just 2 times, and then also right here, we've seen a strong continuation that there has been a lot of action on the red vertical pivots in time. Okay, we obviously traded against the trend. We had a counter trend move, only for it to continue, but you want to look at, or kind of maybe do some tally marks to see, well, how many zones. I'll do it like this. Kind of like highlight an area of importance. So like I see that there's a series of wicks here responding against this arc. So I just kind of want to highlight that entire zone, and then do that for any lengthy behavior inside or outside of an arc where you see it respecting that as a support or resistance zone, because the odds are that exact arc, that particular arc, will be very, very important in the past and in the future. And you'll notice that for whatever reason, arcs are an area that price wants to stay out of. It does not like to stay in it. It does not like to stay around it. Prices want to GTFO from arcs. They act as like accelerants for price action, and you know, when things are inside of it, generally you'll get a violent move away from it. You know, there's the arcs are very reactive, and prices don't like to hang around them. So yeah, it's, any questions or comments on this stuff? As far as how you construct your Gann angles in there, you know, again, like fractals are fractals are fractals. You know, depending on the kind of a chart you're using or your time frame, you know, you could build out like, so I have you know, you put, there'd be 4 circles within this entire blue box, this entire blue square. You would have like 4 circles, one in each. There'd be 4 quadrants of these circles. In fact, let's just nerd it out for a second. And go to the daily. I mean, I've got those done. Let's see what the price action was from the all-time high to yep, yeah, it's the same. It's the exact same way, but yeah, I know I've done a video on this before, but yeah, we can certainly do it tomorrow. Sometimes it's maybe easier to see it live. I don't know, is it? So let's see, we go like this, and we've got that square. But what are our values? 1.78 and 0.089. And at market geometry, and there's multiple different squares that you can use of Gann's work. Not all of them are going to be, yeah, there's usually 1 or 2 that work the best, and depending on the market you're trading. But you know, it's you can see probably just by looking that there's 2 things that got me profitable. One was the Ichimoku system, and then the second was learning Gann and putting into practice a lot of his geometry, because you get kind of a roadmap of what's going to happen. Because like the arcs themselves, like they're like hallways or channels, you can see where price action likes to stick inside of them and trade in them. You know, in these intersections, you know, you can even between the angles and the arcs, there's all sorts of these confluence zones that you can see ahead of time. You can determine what and where price action may be trading from a very recent point of view. So, you know, when I'm looking at, for instance, when I'm looking at XRP right here, I can see that this is a very wide distribution zone. Okay, all the way up to 45, and where we're currently at, this is like the trading range that we should see prices trade in while we're in here. As long as we close above this angle, which looks pretty steep, as long as we close above this angle, this entire zone from this line here, draw it out a little bit, highlight that area that I'm talking about. Damn it. Well, I think you saw what I was trying to draw. But this entire zone should be where you're seeing the price action trade. So, you know, you can say these are this is the resistance. And here's the wrap your head around this part. This horizontal resistance level is also the same as this arc. Okay? The price value is different, but you got to think of it like a 3-dimensional object. It's the best way I can say it, is that this price level, this area of resistance, this harmonic level of resistance, is the exact same as this arc here. They're the exact same resistance. Same as this angle now and this arc, they're all support. And so this is the price action that we can see being distributed in here is pretty large. And if you want to know, well, okay, like it's obviously prices are probably not going to trade in those major swings like this up and down. They could. You could use those musical harmonics and split it up, or you could do a fib ratio from one intersection of arc and angle to there. So you could trade like that. There's a whole lot of different ways to do this, but man, I'm telling you, trading market geometry, it's like you get a roadmap and you get to kind of see what's going to happen. And if you like to use oscillators and stuff, pay attention to what if price is trading at like if price is pushing up to this arc and then we see the next candlestick's a failure. What were the oscillators? What were the values at? There's a fast and a slow oscillator here that are both in an extreme. That's probably a good, idea to sell. You could look back here and see, okay, prices were coming up to this arc, and we were in elevated conditions. Also had bearish divergence, higher highs in price and lower highs in price on both oscillators. So if you can use 4 different forms of unrelated technical analysis to form an argument for one direction or the other, and you can see it pointing in one direction, then that's the trade to take. I've got, you could short here based on the time cycle. The arc is pretty close by. There's a divergence in a slow and a fast oscillator, and then the candlestick patterns themselves could act as a level. But then, also in between each major harmonic are another 8 inner harmonics, and in between all 8 inner harmonics are 8 minor harmonics. So I'm not going to plot them all out, but you have the same. There'd be 8 of these lines, and then in between each of these is 8 minor harmonics. You would only trade those if you're trying to scalp, or you're trading on like 5 to 1 minute time frames. But otherwise, really the most important levels between from major harmonic to major harmonic, you just worry about the 50% level, and then these would be red. And that'd be blue. I mean, obviously they're not correct because I just eyeballed it. But anyways, and when prices approach, and then there's a behavior, when prices move past a major harmonic and they get to the first and then the second inner harmonic here, there's a behavior for these levels. Like, this is considered in price. If you break a major harmonic up and you get all the way to this red line here, this is considered a super duper oversold condition. Prices 93% of the time will retrace all the way back down to the major. Happens all the time. Anyways, okay, I got too babbly there, too wordy. We have a couple trade ideas out. Keeping an eye on the volume here and the kind of the direction we're moving. We want to see those arcs and angles and trend lines to be broken up to the top side, and we'll see if that extends. So yeah, I hope you guys found this helpful, useful. God, I know some of it is way so fast. Yeah, how are you going to keep track of it? Good thing is we record these, and then Lewis, if you're here tomorrow, I get ADD sometimes, so remind me about squaring Bitcoin. And we can do it a couple ways. We can do it like this, and then we can do it Gann's traditional way. This is my way. I mean, this is something I developed, and I've actually got a provisional patent on this because I'm going to patent this method if I can. the 192-day law of vibration cycle with this market geometry is not taught, nor does it exist anywhere except by me. And damn it, if it's not an improvement over something that is already of general knowledge in the field, then I'm going to put a name to it. I don't know what to call it, but Gann's the man method. I don't know. Something stupid. But yeah, this is the same principles that he uses, and you apply these to his other squares in some ways too. So anyways, okay, I'm 20 minutes over. Hour and 20 minutes. Wow, that's a long session. Longest session I've done in a long time. So Forex Lens, folks, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 7:30. And the crypto markets, folks, I will see you tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Have a great rest of your trade day. Bye-bye.